Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Left 4 Dead. Let's continue. So we're in chapter 4, so we may very quickly get through this second to last scenario of, what was this one called? Dead Harvest or something? Yeah. If it's actually called Dead Harvest, I imagine that means we're somehow going to make it through a forested area into more of a farm area. Which, yeah, farm areas also very common in zombie scenarios, so that would be a good idea. The Walking Dead kind of made a farm area fairly unique in that there was a cannibal group living at a farm and serving meat to the heroes, human meat to the heroes without telling them. Zombie stories in general feel cannibalistic in the first place, so it is kind of doubling down on that idea. But that would certainly have been an opportunity to write a backstory of some sort to say, hey, there was this farm, it was selling not pork but human, or not beef but human, and that's how the zombie apocalypse happened, is that this is something like Kuru's disease that you get when you eat human brain. A lot of it that's already infected. Interesting, here we have a dead cow. First time we've seen an animal, and its skull is like completely missing and bleached off, yet the rest of its flesh seems fairly intact. Yeah, I'd assume this is a cow. So maybe they were gonna have more of those kinds of animals throughout the game at one point and didn't get that far. I would be very interested to see how somebody could make a zombie cow a thing. And I had to really struggle to get that. I want to be fairly careful. Yeah, it does seem like we're just gonna see the zombie cows and that's it. How did they get on top of the roof? There's a whole thing over here. I messed that up. And they're jumping down from the roof. Yeah, this definitely feels like I triggered this scenario, not really because the AI director was bored with the game, but because the AI director decided to see, oh, you got on the roof? That's the perfect place to... That's the perfect place to have a horde attack you. And so we've seen the barn there, and what looks like a ranch, more than a farm. But I guess if we were gonna explain away the zombification disease as tainted meat, it would come from a ranch. And then this says Richardson Atlantic, and this feels very much like a railway again. Let's see if we can make that jump. That's a very far jump. You're in a kind of a unique enough position where you can just use these guns over and over again. If you just single tap your automatic weapon, you don't run out of bullets that fast. Not sure which way we're supposed to go, whether it's that way, which is lit up, which is probably the way, or if it's inside this building. As just a great example of the need for an iron sight. So this could have been a shipping facility.
Want to save this for later. Pills here.
Francis. He doesn't have pills then. I swear one of them didn't have pills.
Reloading.
I guess one of them picked up some pills. I guess I'm also wrong on the idea that you can use the automatic gun the whole time, because I am pretty much almost completely out. I'm just trying my very best here to look and see. And there's a trick here you probably aren't recognizing, in that the reason why it's so foggy here in this skybox and why there are no 3D models of buildings or textures is because they needed all that video RAM to draw all these trees. So 13 years ago on the source engine, you wouldn't be able to have both. Nowadays, it would be laughable for somebody to say they couldn't have a thick forest area with mountains and trees in the distance, or buildings in the distance. In fact, you can, with modern hardware, pretty much animate anything you want at the expense of quality. Like, you can't have everything high resolution and look great when you walk up to it, but you wouldn't have to completely eliminate elements and make contrivances and compromises. Notice how they have only like one on fire animation. It's just swinging around trying to put out the fire on their heads. It's just the same dance over and over again. That was a funny line. Kind of in a bad position right now, though, because I'm totally out of bullets now.
I'm reloading.
Pipe bomb over here.
And only so much can be added. I can't take that guy on. They basically, I think, let it die. This is an odd... This feels weird to have newspaper stands in the middle of nowhere. Who would put the newspapers in the stand? Somebody riding the railroad every day? early in the morning, late in the evening. See, I can hear a witch. That's also going to be an issue. It looks to me like I could go downward and work my way towards that building. So we may need to do that. And just an avoidance attempt of the witch. Because I think we really are going to have to avoid the witch this time. If we can. Nope, there's no way we're avoiding this. She, I think, is in there. Here we have environmental storytelling of a lot of blood. People running into zombies running into a lawnmower. It still makes no sense to me that these bullets, these gunfire would not startle the witch. Right.
Molotov over here.
Is there any way we can maybe avoid her? Like, can we jump out this window? Nope. Can we go out this door? No. Can we go out this door? Can we go out this window? Maybe. Just really try to sneak past it. Maybe we will, for once, actually succeed at sneaking past the witch.
Through here.
Okay. And see, remember, in Riverside we crossed the bridge also, so we are kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Probably because two people had slightly different ideas on how those encounters and scenarios would work, and it's not a terrible thought that there would be multiple train bridges.
Reloading.
But yeah.
Get to the train. Reloading.
This is a much more natural explanation as far as getting into a train and it being a safe house compared to the last time when we got into a train and got into a safe house. That did not really make any sense at all. Yep, and chapter 5 is called Farmhouse Finale. Echo is the last evac safe zone. Let's see. I need this gun. And in picking up the gun, you get full bullets. I did not realize that. I heard cell phones still work in Riverside. This is funny because we've already been to Riverside and we know that's not safe. We also have bullets here. But I didn't know that picking up guns, at least in the safe house, would have refilled your health anyway, so. Alright, so Zoe is not really the weakest. The first weakest person would be me. So let's heal ourselves. Take one of these. Francis.
Hold still, I can heal you.
Francis is playing the tough guy.
Thanks, man.
And then Lewis.
Stop squirming, I'm gonna heal you.
And then
Thanks.
Honestly, I think I'm the next lowest person. So just heal yourself twice in a row. And that only got me up to 98, so it seems like there's a diminishing return when using the health kits. That it does not get you back up to 100 unless you are... Well, I was like at 90 and it didn't get me up to 100. So it probably never gets you up to 100 at that rate.
Reloading.
It may only heal you 90% of your health. And then you just have barriers where you'd fall off to your death on the other side of this. There's not really a farmer, rancher, or particularly even rural zombie that would make sense. Like, you'd kind of have to work to make the boomer that kind of character. This is interesting that they would bother to have cars and design a system here. Yeah, I don't know why you would have in this level a why you would have it have the cars as something using up the video RAM. That seems unnecessary and a mistake. There's a decent chance that the train models will not even be used much after the next few steps. Where is he? I'm not hitting anything, and yet it's making a pile of smoke in the air. Well, that definitely would have been a case where nobody took any damage from the gargantuan.
Let's get up that ladder.
The gargantuan might very well be the forced roaming zombie that would be more rural. You could say that these were people, hardworking farmers who were particularly physically big to begin with. So they, in the forest, were able to mutate from being strong and relatively healthier, not having smog and such in their lungs, compared to the more urban people. And they could have been eating the smaller zombies, which that's really what this should come down to, is that the zombies should eat each other and get bigger and stronger for video game elements.
Reloading.
See, I imagine that was the last point in which we'll see any trains, and now we'll just be back to these very weird areas. So do not run directly at military personnel. Do not ignore military prisoners when they address you. Do not make any sudden or violent movements. Keep arms above heads all times or you will be shot on sight. I mean, so is this some kind of military farm? And that's the conspiracy? I think it might be. Should we follow any of those instructions? No. And so now we've got these corn fields. And that's going to severely block our view. And we've got these water sprinkler fields machines. You know, it just occurred to me that the I can't see anything there. The subtitles basically ruin the game for people who are not devs. Which I guess that's the case for a lot of instances, that if you're going to have an audio cue of an incoming attack, you basically have to say incoming attack or a musical string of some sort. See, that seems very scripted. Yeah, that feels very scripted that the witch would be there. American safety zone. Am I supposed to go this way? I don't know what. It's never smart to make up new titles for yourself in the middle of a disaster. Wow, I feel like I may have accidentally gone in circles here. I am not 100% sure how far this whole thing goes. Like, it looks like this is a fairly big area. Yeah, this is a really, really big area. I'm not really seeing a lot of zombies. Doesn't feel like there's really a lot here. Honestly, what this feels like is laziness, is that they've created a incredibly large section. Like, and I can't go any further that way. That must be your exit comes that way. It seems like instead of just hard programming it to say this many zombies can spawn in this area, they've procedurally placed a specific amount of square footage around this farm so that by square footage, by the number of spawnable tiles, much like Minecraft has spawnable tiles depending on the light level, they seem to have just flooded this area and made an experiment on just how big of an area is too big. And honestly, this feels like it is too big. Cows are not doing anything. This would have been probably a good place to have a zombie cow attack us as a boss. Can't jump on ladders.
Ammo here.
Nobody needs pills. This definitely feels like that a case where you're going to end up startling the witch when you start that attack anyways. Evacuation outpost Echo.
Hurry, get to the farmhouse.
You know what I'm not running into though is any not running into any Molotovs, any grenades. And so
Ammo here.
you've got your full setup in case somebody dies and respawns in the middle of this encounter. And I imagine what you would want to do, and this might be the first time ever where it makes sense to start locking doors on people. Here's a baby's crib with no baby in it because they're not willing to go that route. If they were gonna have dead babies or zombie babies, they would have had kids. Here's some kids' bedrooms, and they didn't want that either. Although they did put a creepy doll, which somebody spent their time making that doll model for not really good usage. Non-breakable things, although you can knock the paintings off the wall, which that's a little interesting. Again, artists spending extra effort to make a they're spending the extra effort to make a painting when it's only going to be used once. Right, see that. And then that. It wouldn't be a standard zombie game trope or anything, but it would be fairly interesting if there was a darkness factor, that if you got in a room that was particularly dark, like a creepy zombie fungus would attack you, so you would hear it skittering around, or like zombie cockroaches would come towards you.
Hello?
I do not believe it. Captain, somebody survived out there. We read you loud and clear, survivors. We are prepping an extraction team. Prepare yourselves and radio back when you're ready.
We just broke something. Alright, well, let's do this.
You're good to go, son.
That is a go, survivors. Be advised, it will take us 10 minutes to reach you.
Much like No Mercy, this is just going to be a 10-minute problem. We'll just try and see who and where people are going to come. I'll now cover this door. Yeah, there's some really odd angles, certainly on the ladders, too. There's really not enough people to cover every door. And there's no like tower defense type barricading system or anything like that, so you can't really barricade the doors more than shutting the doors, which very quickly get broken down anyways. But yeah, a lot of this is really just shooting ducks in a barrel, fish in a barrel. So they got tired of that. So we're trying to figure out now which one. Can he get through this window? I think he can't. I think he's stuck. So much for the gargantuan. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fairly stuck trying to go through even the doors. And there's just no logical reason why there would be so many zombies in a farmhouse like this. The only thing that would make sense is if they were actively chasing a loud sound, such as an airplane crashing at the beginning of the scenario, and that brought them all to the forest area where they wouldn't have been otherwise. So yeah,
Wait up, I'm healing.
might as well just heal myself. So, Destructible Wall. Although this Destructible Wall does not really match with the rest of this at all. Like the paneling and design. Plus you have weirdness in that the boomer destroyed the wall before he blew up, just by hitting it. Which if that was something he could do anywhere and everywhere, that might be interesting. It sure would be nice if some of these other guys had grenades. But I guess they've decided to not make it where the other guys could accidentally blow up the actual player.
Cover me, gonna heal.
I'm at 25. That brings me to 85. And 85, it brings me to 97. At 97, it brings me to 99. And I'm getting hit now, so couldn't get any higher than 99. Let's see if we can find a vehicle and get out of here. Nope. We got a gargantuan in the way. Gotta kill these guys. I'm about to die. And see, this is the weird thing, is you've got this like red health that does not connect to a 3-strike rule at all. Is this yet another gargantuan? Okay, well, let's take a shotgun this time. See if we think that's the right gun. Nope, I still don't really think it is. And this didn't respawn me in single player back anywhere close. At 98% when you heal yourself, you only get to 99.
Hold still, I'm gonna heal you. Hey, thanks, man.
Alright. You see, this puts you in a weird position because now you don't really want to run through any of this. Like, or you don't really want to play any of this. So, the question becomes, will these guys stay up with you if you just constantly run? No. So you gotta taper it a little bit, take a break, but generally just move forward as fast as possible. And as long as I'm moving, I wonder if the game's gonna get bored with us. This guy really hates me. Notice how that grabbed the invisible ledge there.
Reloading.
this pretty much highlights why the levels have to be fairly small. Like, because if you're playing single player, you're going to have a very different experience than not playing single player. Where are my other guys? Yeah, notice this time it's not a witch.
Reloading.
Let's see, I think path is over here
Broadcast from the American Safety Zone.
and over
Please respond.
here.
Get to the farmhouse.
Alright,
This is an emergency broadcast from the U.S. military.
Ammo here. Cover me.
at some point it might make sense to switch over to a shotgun when we start getting attacked by the gargantuans.
Broadcast from the U.S. military. Please respond.
Let's run around and see. This is an interesting bathroom in that it has a nice bathtub and a trash can. Once again, just 3D models that don't feel like they need to exist. I think we come up here and we're a lot safer.
Pills here.
Yeah, I think we either take up this residence. I'm gonna make sure that door is closed. Close that door. Close that door. Close that door. Yeah. Close that door. Close that door.
Hello?
Holy shit. Hey, Captain, someone actually responded. We read you loud and clear, survivors.
You'd assume that that would be more of a computer generated thing. Here you can even see how it's going to be a destructible environment. Alright, so everybody's ready.
We're ready, soldier.
Copy that, survivors. We're coming for you. Hang on.
Alright, now everybody come up here. See, so how many people can I really shoot in this area? Not as many as I probably would like to. Zoe has decided to come up here too. There are 4 windows here, so it would make a lot of sense. But we are definitely split up.
Reloading.
I guess if you get on the roof, you're in a better position. I don't know if this really is smarter though. Seems like I've kind of on this roof set myself up with a nice angle, but
Reloading.
got a gargantuan. Can we see him? Is he up there? Like, where's Zoe and Lewis? I can't even see him on the map. Through a wall. So it sounds like he died there. And I'm trying to call for help.
I'll live.
Up and at 'em. Hold on, let me patch you up.
Cover me.
Alright, can we possibly throw that?
God damn it, son of a bitch!
Like, I'm barely even playing the game at this point. We'll just cover this window. Or these two windows.
Reloading!
I'm reloading.
So yeah, this is probably a better defendable position, just in the fact that there's only 3 doors and 4 people. It'd be nice if you had a chain gun in this level, like maybe on the roof or something. And so 3 of them are shooting that way, and I'm covering their backs fairly successfully. Meanwhile, we're just waiting for the timer to go down. Oh, now go ahead and run, and
First aid kit!
grab this and this.
Hello here!
And then I'm gonna run back up stairs.
Reloading!
Is he still alive? Or did he die? Go ahead and take these pills. What are these guys doing?
The truck has arrived! Let's move out, people!
I think I could have probably run and gotten in the truck this time. So yeah, I imagine this would have just constantly stopped, spawned more zombies, and you were just supposed to run. Here we have a weird-looking military transport vehicle that does not look recognizable to me. Looks kind of like something you'd see from Halo. Not to say that it doesn't actually exist. I earned an achievement, Grim Reaper, apparently. So that was Blood Harvest, an incredibly short section, an hour and 30 minutes, with me dying once and having to play the final chapter a second time. I used 16 first aid kits, whereas Francis used 7 pain pills. I knew he was using a ton. Although it does probably say something that I only realized he was using a ton of pain pills by the 5th or 6th time he had. Maybe it would have made a little bit more sense if the characters had outright said taking pills or healing, something like that. You probably don't want a character screaming taking pills. 2,282 zombies killed in total, but still not really putting me anywhere close towards the achievements. And see, at the end of this scenario, you're with the military. You should be as safe as possible. So it gets really questionable if there was supposed to be a long-running narrative there, how you're going to end up just a group of 4 again when the military is supposedly capable of protecting you. Let's see, so Ones we still haven't gotten. Survive any campaign on expert, which you could probably do on multiplayer even if you're terrible at the game. Survive all campaigns on expert. Again, that seems like that's very doable if you're on multiplayer and people are willing to drag you along. Notice though that this achievement says 0 out of 4, so there literally was only 4 campaigns to start with. They must have released the extra campaigns later. Yeah, Death Toll, Dead Air, No Mercy, and Blood Harvest. So it's which campaigns that are not default? Crash Course was added later, and the Sacrifice was added later, and then Crash Course kind of acts as the glue between No Mercy and Death Toll, so it would have made sense for there maybe to be a glue between Dead Air and Blood Harvest instead of the Sacrifice being the last in the line. So yeah, originally I guess none of the scenarios really connected in any way. But yeah, those were added later, Crash Course and the Sacrifice. Maybe that's why I didn't recognize them as much. I would have thought I would have killed more than 5 smokers while they were pulling helpless survivors. Shove a hunter pinned off, pinning down a helpless survivor. Heal 25 survivors with first aid kits. Seems like we still have only done a small number there. We've revived very few people. You really would just have to play this game over and over and over again to get all these achievements. And even 13 years ago, I think that as a sales point was something that was very intriguing in the minds of Valve more than something that actually happened. And I can't really blame them because people were, particularly at that time, playing Halo nonstop every night for 6 months to a year to 2 or 3 years. There still is a gamer pro group of gamers out there that only play the latest Call of Duty and play it religiously, and that's the only game they play. So I could see why Valve thought they could try and make Left 4 Dead a game like that, but they kind of missed the idea that horror games are never really going to be that. Like, they never have been a long-running game that really works. A lot of these green achievements, these green achievements you can't even get unless you're playing versus mode. So even if you liked the main campaign, then you would have to play versus mode for more achievements. And then it seems like there's some other gameplay modes that may very well not be populated. Earn at least a bronze medal in every official survival level, which seems like each of these levels are things we've already seen. So playing it on survival, if that is a single player experience, feels like that's just a hardcore mode. But yeah, there's no way you would have ever been able to make any kind of zombie game so replayable that you'd be able to get a huge fandom playing it for years and years later. And even if you had succeeded at that, 13 years down the line, that wouldn't have been the case. So the game now has very little value, which is the problem with all multiplayer games. Yeah. Yep. As a special infected incapacitate someone who's trying to sacrifice themselves. So yeah, it is fairly obvious that the sacrifice is going to end up with somebody being able to sacrifice themselves. Right, well, I suppose developer commentary. We have not the hospital, but the rooftop finale. to play as. And we'll just play randomly as Bill. So this is our last chance for any interesting developer commentary to be said.
Pilot better be here.
If he ain't, at least we die with a nice view
I'm
of the
here.
city.
That helicopter pilot could have been a character in himself, not a playable character, but they could have had the voice actor be the person that they call every time they hit a radio, and he could be the guy that is their expert at extraction. These guys could have, after the first scenario, been hired by the military to take on the zombies, and this could be kind of like their job is to survive and fight the zombies and kill them all.
Players need to learn from their mistakes as quickly as possible. In early versions of Left 4 Dead, if survivors failed a campaign at any point, we just put them right back at the beginning and made them play the whole thing over again. That meant that if the team dies in the last level, it'll be close to 45 minutes before they ever get back to that map to try something new. This made it hard for players to remember exactly what they'd done wrong, and so it was hard for them to decide what they might want to do differently. So now, when a team goes down, we just reset to the beginning of the level that they died on. This gives them a lot more freedom and flexibility in how they approach the most challenging sections.
His eyes look good, but Lewis's eyes... Where's Lewis? They're a little bug-eyed. Let's see what... Yeah, Zoe's eyes look fine. But, yeah. And give him enough eyelids, I think. There. But I guess that's fine. Yeah, well, even when it resets you, though, it's still kind of only resetting you back quite a bit. So they... The solution in more modern games would be... Wow, interesting that the leg came off. I wonder... That probably was scripted. Are we getting any more zombie butts? Yes, we are. The problem here would be to have a ton of respawn locations, and they've already labeled them. Basically, they have a procedurally generated place where zombies spawn, so it would just be easy to have a human spawn in that same area and then just despawn
All the
any
music in Left
enemies
4 Dead, themes,
around.
motifs, hits, and effects, are based on a hybrid scale derived from the main opening menu theme. This theme, representing the near death of humanity as it fades to a distance only to be accessed through a radio, is an incremental melodic modulation, collecting up all the notes used along the way. The scale is not absolute, and some notes outside the scale are used occasionally to achieve even greater dissonance. But by using the singular and very chromatic scale, almost any piece written in it will generally dovetail pretty decently with any other. At the very least, the pieces seem to spring from the same musical universe. The resulting tunes are deceptively complex, easy to remember but difficult to sing accurately.
Well, I'm not an expert in music, but that sounded like a whole bunch of circle jerk, self-congratulating nonsense. So let me give my layman's review as a non-musical expert of the music in Left 4 Dead. Unless it's been muted this whole time because of some glitch, and I haven't heard any of it. Left 4 Dead's music is practically non-existent in my mind. I hear notes and chords of a song, but 90% of it seems to be completely silent. And there is no high rising action songs. There are no falling action calming songs. There's nothing that is unique and quirky or recognizable in any way other than the attack songs. And I would have definitely rather them try to have a soundtrack, even if it was just using music from other creators. If this was just I don't know, in sync songs or heavy metal songs of famous heavy metal creators, that would have at least been recognizable. Particularly since this is trying to be like a movie. These are supposed to be movies, so why is there no kind of movie type soundtrack element? Yeah, it's been basically too quiet for me to even hear. And again, remembering that I'm admitting ignorance as far as music, really. I tend not to be very good at appreciating music. The idea that the music is deceptively complex, which is a terrible way to describe anything, really just is a bad thing. It should be, if anything, deceptively complex would probably sound like a good thing, but really the song should sound simple. They should feel very natural and fluid, and they should be something that you could hum to. That would be an interesting thought if you're in this horror game and the music is playing and you're humming because you're scared along with the music, or the character in the game and the voice actors are humming along with the music in their head.
When players are moving through the world in a panic and trying to coordinate with their team, the last thing you want them to worry about
automatically
is which key lets them crouch so they can scramble into a vent. Throughout the game, we tried to simplify movement controls so the players can enjoy the terror of the experience with as little frustration as possible. Here, and at similar obstacles, we make the survivor crouch automatically when they come to a vent. Wherever possible, we try to keep these decisions invisible to players, to keep the illusion that they're moving through this frightening world on instinct without ever thinking about controls.
Yeah, but then there's plenty of times where they didn't bother to make the tunnels short enough that you needed to crouch. Which that feels weird too. That spray can is also weird, because it's not like you see a lot of spray cans. I have to wonder if a lot of these 3D models really just already existed in the Source engine and Half-Life engine. Well, when we did this the first time, we ran around all these outer areas, and I'm not gonna do that. I think we're just gonna probably follow the line here and listen to the commentary.
Hospital Rooftop is the finale that saw the most iterations. It's the first one that we ever built. The initial design had the survivors inside
arguably
of the
the
building
best
with
one,
the
too.
helipad outside. You would fight inside the building till help arrived, and then you'd go out to the helipad to escape. We found that it was too easy for the survivors to back into a small room and hold out, just shooting the infected as they came through the doorway. This killed the drama because we'd have hundreds of infected attacking the rooftop, but you'd never see them, only the trickle that got through the doorway. We learned through playtests that survivors have a natural tendency to climb up on things. It's like the infected are a flood, and survivors are always trying to get to high ground. So we played to that tendency, building rooftop areas that were easily accessible where the survivors could navigate from one roof to another. Knowing that survivors want to get to high ground, we can anticipate how they'll approach the map, and we can design around that. For example, the infected can scale rooftops from all sides so the survivors can never back into a corner where they're safe. As a bonus, survivors get to actually see the infected running at them from a long distance away, which is a lot more dramatic than shooting at them as they pile through a doorway.
That concept of being on rooftops is great. Why does that not exist in any of the other scenarios or chapters, though? Yeah, everywhere else, if you had jumped down a ledge, you probably would have been afraid that you would have died, so there should be a ladder there. It's not like there's a real danger of people running back to the previous section.
Left 4 Dead was originally going to have a continuous story that started with the hospital campaign. When the chopper pilot picked you up, he would start talking about how he had just done a street pickup and wasn't feeling so well. Clearly he had just been infected and the chopper was about to go down. We found that this left playtesters feeling let down, instead of rewarded for having survived the challenging campaign. We decided to cut that section of the pilot's dialogue and kept the ending upbeat, reinforcing the player's sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, and I would say they took the wrong message there. Yeah, I don't want the pilot to inherently just die after being the hero and saving everybody at the end of the scenario, which he does anyways, as from the visual clues of the next scenario, which the next scenario and all the other scenarios don't even have commentary, so nobody will admit to them being somewhat connected. I think my suggestion is better to the person that rescues you here should be the person who rescues you always. He's your fifth man in the
Highly
band.
cooperative and experienced survivor team can become very good at staying together and watching all around them, to the point that it becomes difficult for the zombie to cut the kind of chaos and panic that makes the game exciting. The smoker was created to forcibly pull this tight team apart. Moving just one survivor far out position with a smoker tongue attack proved to be enough to break things
Why
up
does
and bring the chaos
the
back.
flashlight not work on this guy? It's still weird that sometimes they spawn and they're real, and sometimes they spawn and they're not real. Yeah, and you once again never really get close enough to the zombies to see them, so there's a lot of wasted time there. They should have had one-way doors also, not just the shelter one-way doors, but just one-way doors in general that sometimes would lock you in or stop you from going a different direction. That would have made level design easier.
While special effects seem on the surface to be visual fluff, they also serve critical gameplay functions. To choose an example of the smoker, we can see how his various effects follow his design. The role of the smoker is to keep his distance.
I guess you're supposed to be looking at the smoker while this is playing, but I don't know how that would work.
The group. As such, unlike other types of infected, he prefers to keep his distance from the survivors. In order to give him a distinct and visible silhouette in the often dark and distant locales that he frequents, he has a swarming spore cloud. We use a variety of small techniques here to help guarantee a strong read in all situations. The spores themselves are lit by the local lighting, but always maintain some degree of color so that the smoker retains some distinct visibility even in complete darkness. Further, we apply a technique we also use in a variety of feedback-based effects such as blood and impacts, where the particles have a minimal screen space size regardless of their distance. This allows the smoker to retain his distinctive effect at far distances or when silhouetted against the sky, while keeping the actual particle sizes small when up close. Since the smoker is usually dealt with at a distance, often at angles which make getting a shot difficult, his death must also be clearly broadcast to players so that they can tell when they've killed him. This is where the smoker's moniker comes into play. When he is killed, he releases a large smoke cloud, which is not only a visual payoff for killing the smoker, but a clear read that he has been defeated and won't escape to attack again. His cloud also serves as a final act of revenge, obscuring nearby players' visibility as well as hiding infected within.
This is a weird placement of things.
The tank is an awesome presence on the battlefield. It's the only zombie that can withstand any amount of direct fire. To successfully combat a tank, the survivors need to work together and focus on their target, and even then the chance of catastrophe is high. With all of this power, it's a huge reward when a player gets to play the tank. We wanted to create something that rewarded player performance so it would feel fair, but we also wanted to make sure that it didn't generate a feedback loop, where one player would always end up being the tank. Often when trying to solve a game design problem like this, it's good to look at mechanisms that exist outside the gaming world that solve the same problems. That way our players will instantly understand the mechanism at play, and we can tap into the same excitement that might already exist for the external mechanism. The tank raffle has the added benefit of announcing to the player zombies when the tank is created, and piquing anticipation for the most exciting part of the game.
I guess we are going to have to go down here just to make sure that there isn't a secret commentary node.
In early playtests, when players controlled the tank, we had a major problem with them not being.
Of course, you only control the tank in
the game
versus.
balance of the tank and making him a game ender almost every time. The problem was that an intelligent human player wants to win right now, and the tank was designed to be an enraged berserker that just charges in and starts smashing stuff. Having a tank that can take tons of damage, has an incredibly powerful melee attack, and is smart, hides in choke points, and stays in cover constantly, as a smart human does, was a huge problem. One choice was simply to not allow the tank to be human controlled and to leave it to the AI to drive its behaviors consistently. With that as our fallback, we worked on trying to find a behavior modifier that would encourage human players to act in a more tank-like way. Eventually, we settled on a fairly simple solution: the patience meter. When a human becomes a tank, he has a certain amount of patience, which is shown graphically on his HUD. This patience wears down whenever he can't see the survivors. If the tank's patience runs out, the player loses control of the tank AI and he returns to spectator mode. This allows the player to decide how to engage the survivors, but makes it clear that he needs to get in and start swinging or he'll lose his turn. By making this behavior contract clear to the player, we get the kind of tank behavior we need, and human players get to enjoy causing total chaos as the biggest, baddest boss in the game.
I'm wondering how difficult it would have been, barely even paying attention to what they're saying there. The patience meter is an interesting thought, but I don't know if I immediately like it or not. I'd have to think about it. But I'm wondering how hard it would have been to have a second campaign in each of these levels where you play as a zombie and you work your way backwards to the start point of where the humans are. That you would want to kind of upgrade and progress, so you couldn't play just like as a tank or gargantuan or a witch. Although maybe you could play as the witch and have the witch run all the way backwards to the beginning of the levels. By having the player go in opposite directions, where, particularly in these level designs where for the most part there are ways to get back from where you started, that would have been that would have been an interesting move, particularly since you would think that maybe all of the safe houses would be open, the doors would be open in this idea. You wouldn't really want to play as a shuffling regular zombie though, so it probably would need to be either you play as the witch or you play as the hunter. And there is an argument certainly around having the player play as the witch, because then you could take the guns out of it and it would be all melee combat. Massive amount of health and big claws. So like maybe you make it a bit of a speed run experience to just see how fast as the witch can you actually knock and kill humans. There aren't that many human models though, so basically it would have to almost be a speedrun mode where the witch is just slicing through other zombies to get them out of the way because they are shuffling in the way. And then you could possibly put it that the character you're specifically playing is a unique witch zombie type that is some kind of divergent mutation that the zombie, these guys just run right off the window, that these zombies are attacking also. And then you can have boomers and hunters and smokers also attacking you, or you could have sniper people very high up shooting at you as you're running, people that just dodge. The military guys, like if you had a face model for the military characters that made them not look like zombies, then that could be the cannon fodder as far as who your main human enemy would be. There could be also booby traps, but then that would take probably more design, and the general idea would be to try to make a scenario where they could take what they've already created and double the use on it, which is what they are doing anyways by making this game multiplayer and having a versus mode and having a survival mode, is that they're asking us to play the same levels multiple times. So we know there's not any secret node.
We knew we wanted homemade weaponry for Left 4 Dead, and a pipe bomb seemed ideal. However, for a long time the pipe bomb wasn't very fun. We tried various things, such as having a pipe bomb kill a tank. That certainly made the pipe bomb valuable, but instead of being exciting, it made the tank battle anticlimactic. We also tried making the explosion radius much larger, but the instant explosion made it difficult to time perfectly to be effective against a mob rush. In the final months of development, one of the animators suggested the pipe bomb having a beeping, flashing light that attracted zombies. That added the missing fun element, an interesting and useful tactical choice for the survivor. We prototyped this new pipe bomb behavior, and it was an instant success. There are definitely situations where you want a Molotov, but now that choice is harder to make because both are useful and fun.
Didn't really talk about the Molotovs at all. This is a lot of people. Notice that he points with his left hand. That's kind of an old style of doing games where the characters would point at what they're about to pick up. That's also like the most amount of grenades. I think broken glass as like caltrops, if you could just throw bottles and distract zombies or have them walk on broken glass, and then that hurts their feet, slows them down, makes them leave a blood trail where they walk. Those would have been another idea. Then you could have certainly gotten more elementals. We have fire burning the zombies, but there is no water or acid, no electricity through water to shock them. There's no earth type traps, no pikes, sticks, bear traps, mouse traps, things like that could have been added. Alright, so let's, I guess, listen to the last two up here, and then the last four up here, and then we'll listen to that.
While there
one.
are hundreds of infected types mobbing the player in Left 4 Dead, there are only
teleports
4 survivors.
these guys.
To make sure these 4 stood up to close scrutiny over many hours of playtime, we decided to use photographic reference of faces and wardrobe details. We started out by casting 4 individuals who fit the general design concepts we had created for our characters. These
They
models
turn
were
their heads
photographed
so
on
you
a
can't
turntable
see
under both
the other
flat
side of
and
their heads.
dynamic lighting conditions in order to provide
A lot of
reference
detail
for
on that
modelers and
tattoo.
texturers. In addition, each model was photographed in a custom-built mirror box,
Hells
which
Angels.
allows us to capture simultaneous front, right, left, top, and bottom views in a single shot. The talent was guided
There you
through a
can see
matrix of
some
facial
really
expressions,
horrific
creating a
imagery.
complete catalog of movements and expressions for each character's face. This is an invaluable resource for our modelers and animators when they start to recreate these expressions in three-dimensional models.
And again, this guy is shorter than that guy. This is a lot of detail as far as the tattoos, and nobody's ever gonna really get to see it. Really, like nobody's who's just playing the game is gonna be able to see it. Plus, if you're playing as him, you're not seeing them either.
Because teamwork is so important to gameplay in Left 4 Dead, we wanted to give players feedback on how they and their teammates were working as a team. The first version of this was something we called awards, which is basically a large collection of positive and negative player actions. It was like having merits and demerits. Awards showed up as icons in the HUD, and everyone could see what awards other people on the team were receiving. This turned out to be too complex and confusing. It was hard to decipher what the icons meant, and the negative awards just hurt the feelings of new players rather than educating them. Also, with so much activity going on in the game, it was hard to notice the award icons at the time the good teamwork occurred. In the next version, we drastically narrowed the list to just a few positive things a player can do, replaced the icons with very short text, and added a glow to the player icon in the HUD. This had the desired effect of reinforcing good teamwork right when it occurred and broadcasting players' good deeds to his teammates.
That's when it says, like, you save Zoe because you shoot a zombie that happened to be slightly near her in the top left. Which, by modern standards, you would just have Zoe say, thanks for the assist, or you saved my life, good work. Just have Zoe directly say those lines of dialogue. It's not like any of these characters are particularly chatty, so a few more lines of dialogue for positive reinforcement would be fine. Meanwhile, when you shoot somebody, you get that negative reinforcement anyways, at least occasionally. People say, hey, stop shooting me, or something along that lines. There's a lot of times when you jump and it seems like you just barely get on the ledge.
From the start, focusing on cooperation was a primary design goal of Left 4 Dead. Although other games support cooperative play, extremely few actually require it. There are many core game mechanics in our game that require cooperation to succeed. One of the first that we added was having your character collapse to the ground, incapacitated and unable to move when your health reaches 0. You continue to lose health in this state and the zombies will continue to attack you. Once you're incapacitated, you will die unless a friend helps you back to your feet. Reviving an incapacitated friend takes 5 seconds, so it is a risky investment, as the rescuer is vulnerable and unable to defend himself during this time.
There's just nothing to this city, if you look at it too. It's like, it would have been nice if there was kind of a forested area in the distance in the skybox to indicate, oh, that's where you end up in a different scenario, or a river somewhere around here. Like, we are literally in the middle of what feels like Manhattan or something. It's just a giant, big collection of tall buildings. It's not tall enough probably to actually be Manhattan, but I don't know, maybe Chicago or something. But you definitely don't get the feeling that you could have ever walked your way to the edge of town in this city. And it just doesn't really have any integration to the other scenarios. It's a little too much. And it's redundant when you look at the back and you're just seeing squares of yellow lights. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And then that one logo on that one building, does that mean something? Or is that just being reused? There's just nothing to see here. You're at the highest point in the entire scenario. You should be able to see something, even if it was just a Valve logo or something. And this was supposed to be in Seattle or Redmond,
Traditional
Washington.
vignetting is a term from photography which refers to the slight darkening of the periphery of a photograph. In our vignetting approach, we darken only the top edge and corners. This focuses player attention down into the middle of the play space where it belongs, while also creating a sense of oppression or claustrophobia. This is a great example of how a visual enhancement can have a positive effect on the overall game experience as well.
Does the game really have vignetting? I think that's been patched out too. I don't really see any of that. Look at the very edges of the screen. Let's try this again. Like, maybe there is a slight darkness there?
Vignetting is a term from photography which refers to the slight darkening of the periphery of a photograph.
I guess maybe a little
In our
bit.
vignetting approach, we darken only the top edge and corners. This focuses player attention down into the middle of the play space where it belongs, while also creating a sense of oppression or claustrophobia. This is a great example of how a visual enhancement can have a positive effect on the overall game experience as well.
Well, that's incredibly, like, subtle. I won't say they're not doing it. It seems like they are actually doing it, but that's really, really subtle.
Because Left 4 Dead is designed to be played over and over again, we made the dialogue scenes have as many variants as we could cram in. For instance, the encounter with the crazy church guy halfway through the Death Toll campaign includes more than 130 lines spread across 5 characters that can play out about 25 different ways. Variations appear based on which survivor initially uses the door, what other survivors are near that survivor, and random chance. The end result is that players can go through the encounter many times without hearing the same conversation twice.
Yeah, that seems like, well, that's a good idea to have maybe 2 or 3 variations. Much more than that really is just assuming that the average player is going to play a scenario a lot more than they really did.
Early in the design of this rooftop scenario, the finale would start as soon as someone hit the radio button. We saw playtesters consistently run up and hit the button without preparing for the battle first. To let players know that they needed to prepare and to give them time to do it, we changed the design so that the pilot tells them to call him back when they're ready.
It's nice to hear another female developer or female commentator at least, because the last time we did developer commentary, the only female one I remember mentioning anything was talking about Zoe, so it seems like they had just brought in the token woman to talk about the female player character, and it's like, oh, that's a little weird. But yeah, I suspect that there might actually be higher than average numbers of females working at Valve as in actual creative development roles. Slightly higher. I don't know what this is going to be in the developer commentary though.
Weapons here! Call me back once you're prepared. News drop for 5 hours.
See, you're not getting the prompts. Wonder if you just have to exit. Wonder if you just cannot trigger the final sequence.
Early in the design of this...
Weapons here! Ammo here!
Yeah. It may very well just be scripted in such a way that you can't run this because this final sequence is so built around the AI director, and the AI director is just not enabled. Alright, well, let's try something here. Since we can't start this, I'm pressing the X button. I'm not getting any prompts or anything. And that's where you would have prompted and started it. Let's see. How much damage does it really take to kill a co-op character in single player? Am I doing any damage at all? I think the answer is no. I'm damaging the wall behind her.
First aid kit here.
But even with like complete headshots, you're not really gonna run the health down.
Ammo here.
So it seems to me like friendly fire is discouraged but not actually impactful.
First aid here. Quit moving, I'll heal you.
Thanks. I owe ya.
First aid kit over here.
Well, let's see now about bombs.
Grenade.
Nope, they'll walk out of the way. That'll hurt me. That did hurt her. Alright. Well then that leaves us with only one way to exit this, doesn't it? We go down in flames. think that launched me. And see, notice by default I'm being I'm being revived and asking for help. Alright, well then we can both go down in flames this time. See, if I time this right, will it do damage to me later?
Hang on, let me fix you up. Molotov over here. I'm done.
Alright, I'm down 3 times this time. And the 3 strikes rule doesn't seem like it's really happening.
Thanks for that. Hold on.
I'm gonna run out of
heal you.
things at this rate.
Damn it, I'm down. I'm in trouble.
Like, even if you're trying your very best to wreck the experience,
We gotta get some first aid, cause you go down like this again.
darn it.
Grenade!
Hang on, I'm coming.
Help over here! You ain't gonna fall, I got you. Get your ass up here.
You can't shoot him while he's falling. So yeah, it seems like even if you're trying your hardest to sabotage your team, it's fairly difficult to kill yourself. Save me that way. Yeah, I guess that's the only way, the right way to end that. And it just automatically loaded us back in. Alright, well, that's the developer commentary. We never hear anything after that point as far as from Gabe Newell. It's it says in commentary mode you cannot earn achievements and you will be ignored by infected until the finale, which that's not really the case. But yeah, very boring commentary, kind of unnecessary commentary too. I would much prefer another gameplay mode, and instead of having them explain things that they're excited about. This definitely was in line with the promotion of Left 4 Dead. There was a lot of talk about the AI director and how groundbreaking and technologically genius Left 4 Dead was, when maybe for its time it did invent a few new tricks, but in modern time it's not doing anything interesting at all. It's a very disappointing game, at least as far as technologically going, and it's missing some core things that you would expect to see in any game, like story and character development and music that's recognizable, like in a soundtrack. There's a lot of actions that don't even have sound files for them, sound cues. The glitching of the chirping birds in the tunnel section was a standout glitch for sure. But a lot of times you just don't hear sound effects. It doesn't really feel like there's a sound effect when some doors open, or when doors slam closed, or when you run. There's definitely room for more lines of dialogue for the characters to speak to make them feel more like humans. There's room for more zombie sounds in general. This definitely feels like a game that was tried to be made using procedural generation more than artistry, and that seems lazy. But I imagine we'll get into that more once we finish the final segment. So that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.